Hard to believe we're on the back half of July, but here we are, and summer will be over before you know it.
Nice and hot down there still?
It's pretty toasty, and I think the Cowboys are leaving for California for their training camp here in the next few days. So at least we'll have some football to talk about here the next time we circle up.
But before that, the other football is going on. I don't know if you follow it all, but the women's FIFA World Cup is going on right now.
Yeah,
they're playing that. They're playing that in Australia.
I like watching, but this whole time zone and 3 a.m. and all this other kind of stuff, I don't know. I get it. They take bids to have this stuff in Australia and Qatar and all these other countries sometimes, but where most people live and where most people watch TV from. I mean, how about getting something at least pretty close to the time zones? But anyway.
It's like everything else. They got to make money.
That's what we're all here for.
Exactly. And it's interesting because, unless you actually follow the sport, there's no real advertising to let people know this is actually going on. There's any notice or real advertising anywhere.
Well, I mean, what is Fox going to do? Tell you to wake up at 3 a.m. so you can watch the game?
Well, it was just yesterday. I looked at when they were playing. They're playing. USA's playing tonight at midnight, and I recorded it. I'm going to record it for tonight. But yeah, they got these games on at all crazy hours of the night. All you can do is record it and maybe watch it when you can. But
yeah, I just think it takes away from it. It's one thing to wake up early and turn on the British Open. You can see a little bit of golf, and at least it's on during the morning hours and into the early afternoon. But middle of the night stuff. Anyway, hopefully when they get to the finals or the semifinals or the final 8 or whatever, it'll at least be, at a time of day where we can see it. I hope, I would like to see U.S. and England get towards the finals there and see what they can do. So we'll see how that all plays out.
That's a month away. That's a month away. It's 4 years. No. Not yet. Not 4 years yet. It was 4 years ago because this tournament comes around every 4 years. But we were at the last World Cup in Paris because they had the World Cup in France for women. And that was in 19. That was right before the pandemic came.
Yeah.
So it's almost 4 years now that we're outside of the pandemic. And you still get the excuses from some people that, we're slow because COVID. People are still using that excuse, like you still haven't caught up yet. You were still using the excuses of COVID.
Not necessarily.
Is that still really valid anymore? We're 4 years later. You still? I don't know.
You hear it on the news every once in a while, but I don't run across it on day to day. In our business, somebody talks about having a hardship or whatever. It's usually more about, maybe they lost their job or inflation, prices are going up, rates are going up. I don't really hear anything about COVID anymore. It was hard to imagine COVID would even happen. And now it's, you look back and it's like, I can't believe we shut down all that time. And now it's almost like it didn't happen. So, but people are still pointing fingers, who caused it, what happened, and what was true and what's not. And just move on.
Until the next big global catastrophe happens.
Yeah. So
now Fed now has been rolled out. Did you hear about this yesterday?
No, tell me about it.
So Fed now is somewhat controversial. It's supposed to be, as I understand it, similar to Zelle and Venmo, except it's supposed to go directly through the Federal Reserve, take out a lot of the middlemen. Supposed to be better on fees. But like most things, they sell you on these great benefits, but don't tell you, okay, so what's the other side of the coin of what are we giving up in order to get some of these benefits? And
Like
so,
privacy, like they track every dollar that goes through.
so this is going to be apparently the initial framework and the groundwork for the CBDCs to come in, the central banking digital currencies to come into play. Um, Again, so who knows where this is going to go? You know, there are different thoughts and different um, theories on. And look, and not, I don't know anybody that's clairvoyant. I don't know if you know anybody who can tell the future, but I don't. But so the rest of it is all theory of where they think it can go. But who knows who's right and who's wrong? So roll out these CBDCs, and it's supposed to be compatible with other central banks around the world. So it's supposed to be some sort of coordinated effort to roll all this stuff out. Then I look at it and that government's in charge. So how well could that work out? And
Yeah, well, let's not base anything on history, right? I mean,
exactly.
so
Who
far they've
knows where
always
this
been able to roll things out so efficiently,
right.
and
Then what do you do with the dollar? And then what do you do with those that still have cash? I mean, look at Nigel Farage. You see what happened with him? He got debanked. They closed his bank accounts because, and there's an internal memo that came out because they don't like his political stance and his views. And so they debanked him. And so that's bringing a little bit of a hoo-ha out there now about too. Is like, how can this happen? They have so much control, these banks, that they can just look at what they did with the truckers that time when they were protesting in Canada, right?
right.
They just took their Trudeau just took his state powers, order the banks to shut down and confiscate, and that's part of what they want to try to do. Some people say, you know, with the central bank digital currencies, gives the big thinkers and the banking institutions more power over our behaviors and our freedoms.
Yeah, it's a dangerous to be walking that fine line there. So I'm not a fan of that. I mean, I get it if you're a private company, and sometimes it's like us. Right? We're a small business, and we can pick and choose what customers we want to do business with, right? And we've talked before that sometimes you have an opportunity to do a deal, and it's just a hassle factor, and I don't want to deal with them. It's not worth the opportunity. But when you start taking that and escalating it to the government cracking down on folks, and the big banks that have all the support and leverage with the government, and all of a sudden they're saying that, I don't see a good ending for that.
I agree. You know, again, it's just I see more mess and chaos in trying to roll something like that out and seeing where it goes. Like Zuckerberg tried to do this new social media platform, Threads.
Yeah,
Totally
I mean,
collapsed.
it's just more division, right? I mean, it's no way is it going to bring people together or
No,
to agreement. I mean,
I agree.
nowadays it's so hard just to get everybody to, as they say, just get along. Now all of a sudden everybody's, they put their flag in the ground and they're not moving. And, this is what I believe. And if you don't, you're the enemy. And that's not a good thing.
No, not at all. Honestly, me personally, I believe that's part of by design. You know, if you create enough angst amongst the citizenry, and then you're not paying attention to what's going on with the big thinkers and what they're doing and how they're operating. I think sleight of hand, distraction. That's just my personal belief. But I
Hey,
think,
I don't know if you're old enough to remember that TV show years ago back in the day, Get Smart.
yep,
Okay.
Maxwell Smart.
Yep. Now you remember what the villain was called in that. It was an organization called Chaos.
Yes,
So who knew that was 50 or 60 years ahead of its time, that by saying that, to your point a minute ago, the more chaos that they can create, then the more division and, the
more
more ability
distraction.
they're looking for in order to control things. So Yep. Shout out to old Maxwell Smart and Chaos and Agent 99 and all the other ones back then.
Wow, that's a blast from the past. Agent 99, that's right.
There
He
you
used to
go.
talk on his shoe, as I remember.
That's right. Yeah. You're
His
probably
phone
more
was-
along the Inspector Gadget generation. So,
Yes, I remember Inspector Gadget more. I do remember Maxwell Smart growing up. But I was young when those shows were coming up. But Inspector Gadget came more later on for me. Yeah. Good stuff.
Nobody can see producer Dave, but I'm sure he's in the background just laughing right now when he's Googling Maxwell Smart and Inspector
He has
Gadget.
no idea what we're talking about, right?
Exactly. Knowing him, he's probably got his headset out listening to something else anyway. So,
it's the times have changed. The times have changed. I heard somebody just yesterday say, years ago, you had to pay for porn and water was free. And today, you got to pay for water and the porn is free. That's where we've gone as a society. It's gone completely backwards. Completely backwards.
Yep, it's crazy. It's crazy.
So did you see that? Also, that Biden, went in his own way and forgave a lot of the student debt as well.
I read some of it, and I try to read beyond the headlines. But if what I read that he was forgiving student loan debt for people that have been paying on student loans for 20 or 25 years. I'm like, who in the world is paying on student loans for 20 or 25 years? I'm sure they've either been paying a really, really low amount or a whole lot of interest. So I'm not a big proponent of the government forgiving debt. Obviously, we're in the debt business. Yep. But if you went to college and you've been paying on a student loan for 20 years, something's not right. Now, again, I'm not going to say I'm an expert on exactly what all that details are, but you can pay off a house in 20 years, never mind a college debt. So
something doesn't make sense to me about that. Banks have big lobbyists, very influential. The government wants to forgive student debt. To me, just thinking logically and simply, that would be a detriment to the banks. But yet the banks, I can't see them allowing that to happen. So what am I missing? Is there a piece where the government's going to pay the banks the forgiveness of debt, where the government steps into the shoes of the borrower and pays off the banks? Is that what I'm missing? They're just going to pay it off for them, or what am I'm missing a piece here that I've not put together.
Yeah, and again, I'm not an expert on the exact details, but it all boils down, just like in our business. Number one, who holds the debt, right? So if the debt is being held by some private financial institution, whether it's a bank or whether it's a capital fund, whatever that happens to own this, the government can't just say, Rob, you need to forgive Bob's loan that he owes you without compensating you somehow, right? Now, whether that means they pay you off and that is the forgiveness, or whether or not you get some sweetheart deal on the side, like, I don't know, you can now take over Signature Bank, Jamie, and forgive the student loans.
Exactly.
So there's something going on there. I'm not privy to it, but we were talking about chaos a minute ago. If the government comes in and starts saying you can't collect debt that somebody owes you, we're going to be in trouble all across the whole financial system. So,
but are we though? Because
unless you owe the government, if you're paying the government and they haven't sold your debt, okay, I guess they can forgive the debt. But I don't think
are they the ones holding it, or are they other financial institutions?
I don't think.
Is it like FHA, where the banks will issue and then the government will issue the guarantee?
I don't know how all that student debt works. I should have borrowed money when my kids went to college instead of paying for it.
You can still borrow money from me if you want. Maybe we'll forgive it.
Well, good.
You may not like my exchange rate, but that's okay.
That's right. I'll sign a 50-year note, and hopefully I'll pay you off one day.
No problem. No, 'cause I was thinking about that as well. So because remember, it wasn't too long ago too that we've been in this business for many years. That you had the mortgage forgiveness fund, where especially on seconds, if you bought seconds, the states had a lot of funds available where the borrower could apply for emergency funds to pay off their seconds in certain cases, and we get paid by the state out of those funds that were set aside.
Yeah, but the state got the money from the federal government, which increased taxes, which means I
that's
paid
exactly
it all,
right.
all that.
That's
So,
exactly right.
so it's the same thing right now. There's still, we started off talking about COVID. There's still housing assistance fund money out there available. It's funny, we were talking about learning from history. Well, back in the crisis of 08, 09, they had the hardest hit funds, which was federal government allocate billions of dollars, give it to each one of the states, and let them figure out how to disperse it. Well, guess what? Some states figured it out. Some never did spend the money. Well, then COVID came.
They spent it, or they misappropriated the money.
Yeah, so COVID came and we started the Housing Assistance Fund. And what do? The exact same thing. Let's give billions of dollars. Let's give it to the state and hope they can give it out. And there's still states right now, whether it's rental assistance or homeowners assistance, that haven't given away all the money. And
because it doesn't go where it's supposed to go. A lot of this money that goes into unfunded liabilities and pension liabilities, and it's how these states are run. It's all
we bought several small non-performing loans, and the previous owner and servicer, had way more accounts than we did, and never really tried to get the state involved from a housing assistance fund. And we've had several accounts brought current, paid up to date, actually paid ahead a few months, paid escrow balances that we had to advance. So, they're like, hey, if you have any more, send them our way. We got lots of money to give away and nobody's applying for it. And I just figure, really? So, yeah.
You did that to the servicers, right?
Yeah, but the one thing that did change between now and what happened back in the hardest hit funds, the servicer and the investor couldn't apply for the borrower. You had to tell the borrower to do it. And,
Right.
Now we as the investor or the servicer can actually apply. We have to get the borrower involved, but we can be the one coordinating it. We don't have to hope some borrower understands to, scan in his tax return and fill out his hardship affidavit and go through all this. We can do all that for them. So they made it somewhat easier. You still have to know. I mean, I don't remember off the top of my head, Rob, but almost every state but 4 or 5 still has money left. So, it's crazy.
Yeah.
So, anybody listening that needs some hardest hit or housing assistance fund, go on the internet, Google that state, see how much they have, and it'll walk you right through how to contact the each state's housing assistance fund program.
Yeah, it's important because it's out there. People need to take advantage of it. They gotta, if it's there, they just gotta tap into it, and that'll help a lot of people stay in their homes and bring these things current.
Yep. Not to get ultra political on everybody, but if you don't, the government's going to recall that money and send it to Ukraine. So, they're just reallocating funds, didn't spend it from the Inflation Reduction Act. We're going to reallocate this unspent money to something else. And I'd much rather see a renter or a homeowner stay in their house than send the money, to a never-ending war.
No doubt. Look, you and I are on the same page. We have all this divisiveness in the world, especially here in the U.S., that we're trying to help people stay in homes and keep that that glimmer of hope on the ownership of home ownership, the American dream. We're trying to keep that hope and that dream alive, helping. So in a sense, we're kind of riding against the tide and, swimming upstream with all this divisiveness and how, the culture is being pushed out there to we're not supposed to like each other. No. We're supposed to be here helping each other. And
Yep.
it's you don't see it as much out there as we would hope to see. But that's why this business is so important. It's so important. And I think I was saying the other day too. I have a couple of guys that want to get into this business who are in the military, former military. We were having the conversation, which is, it used to be that these guys used to fight for our freedom with guns in a foreign land and hold that front line. Today, the war is with a pen, and it's with debt and controlling, this debt as we do when we buy these loans and trying to defend the American home ownership dream. It's like we're the soldiers now trying to preserve what we hold true in this country and what we value in this country by trying to keep that American dream alive. It comes on what we're doing. Be the bank. Control
it goes back to the conversation we started with about, digital currency and the government controlling this and the Fed Now program. And, that's taken away, quote unquote, some of our freedoms. To be able to be an open market, capital environment where, if you have access to capital, whether it's public capital or private capital, then you could be a homeowner, right? I mean, you take on debt and you buy a house and you build net worth and generational wealth. And you get involved with the government, and then you have the difference between affordable home ownership and affordable housing, which basically means affordable housing is you're going to be renting from the government. You're going to be dependent on them. And then again, you have the possibility of the chaos we kind of referred to. So it is a daily battle because, 2 steps forward, 1 step back. Sometimes 1 step forward, 2 steps back. So it's just a matter of, are we making any traction? Are we getting where we need to go? And, what I like about our business is, we're downstream from the top investors. So we have much more, we'll call it empathy for the homeowner to try to work something out. Whereas, a lot of the large companies are just such a big machine. They don't have that personal touch where you can really, sit down with somebody and say, you know what, you do have a hardship. Let me work with you. That's why I like seller financing so much. And that's why I like buying debt, because then you can actually get down there and say, okay, what can we do?
And we're much more nimble. We don't make decisions by committee.
True.
We're quicker. We can move faster. We can make decisions quicker.
That's a good point. I was talking, we're getting ready to have our 10th annual Note Expo here at the beginning of November.
Is it 10 years already?
Yeah, it's crazy, isn't it? So they were like, hey, what would you say the theme would be? And I'm like, you know what? I don't know what the exact marketing theme would be, but if you're going to survive in this business, whether it's real estate investing, note investing, whatever, you have to have the ability to pivot, right? You talked about being nimble. You talked about being, pivot. Can you pivot with whatever opportunity comes and with whatever change in the market happens, whether it's increased rate, whether it's unemployment, whatever it happens to be. The ability to be nimble or to pivot, you're going to be successful. And if not, you're probably not going to be at Note Expo because you're not in business anymore. So anyway, I'll talk more about that as we get closer, but it is November 3rd and 4th in Dallas. And it's for any real estate investor, note investor, somebody who wants to buy distressed debt, anybody who wants to meet folks like that and hang out with them for 2 days. And if you mention this podcast, Rob will buy you a drink.
Absolutely. I'll buy you a drink and I'll put it on Bob's tab. No problem. Be happy to do that.
Yeah. You have practice of that, so you've got that down pat.
There you go. I was going to say something I forgot there. I forgot. 10 years already. Wow, man, that's congratulations.
Yeah, I mean it's crazy, but each year we get 400 or 500 people together and spend a couple days. Some of it's motivational type, get your batteries recharged, and some of it's just content on what's going on in the industry and what we think is going to happen as we hard to believe, but head into 2024, we'll be talking about, and nothing's more exciting than heading into a presidential election year.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
I was saying, I think we are like 30 days plus or minus away from the first presidential debate. I'm like, seriously?
Yeah.
Seriously? So anyway, it's crazy. But yeah, I've always been a little political junkie, liking all that kind of stuff, but it's a little too soon. We talked earlier about every 4 years, talking about the Women's World Cup, and you got the Olympics every 4 years and all that kind of stuff. And now you got, the elections every 4 years. Man, these 4-year cycles seem to get shorter and shorter.
They sure do.
I don't know if it's because most people start running for re-election the day after they get elected, and they're just constantly in campaign mode. But it's it's crazy. I think what is it? The 2026 Men's World Cup is going to be in the USA, I think. So
North America is going to be Canada, USA, and Mexico.
Right. So I mean, and that seems like that ended not too long ago. So
that was last year. That ended last year.
Yeah, I think you got pushed back a year because COVID, and I guess it was 2022. But anyway, yeah. So I'm excited because we got Jerry's World where the Cowboys play, and they'll be hosting the game in 2 rounds and stuff. So we're going to try and get us some tickets for that.
Yeah, well, let me know. I want to try and come watch some games there too. That stadium's supposed to be amazing, so I haven't been there yet.
It's pretty crazy. We have season tickets, so you kind of get spoiled. You're kind of like finding things wrong with it, like, oh, such a pain here or there, But when I take somebody to a game that has never been to the stadium, they're just in awe. I mean, it's like, they're like crazy. And so I'm excited about that. I'm excited about Texas Ranger baseball. Even though I'm a Yankee fan, they are playing good. And here's what's interesting, though. One of the best things they ever did was a couple years ago build a new stadium that had a retractable roof. Because I can't imagine, for those of you that aren't in Texas, for the last month, it's been over 100 degrees every day. And they have sold out since the All-Star break. They played Cleveland, Tampa Bay. The Dodgers are coming to town. Everything's sold out. 40,000 people, whatever. If this didn't have a roof, they'd be 4,000 or 5,000 people maybe sweating it out.
Yeah, no doubt.
So whoever made the decision to build the new stadium with a retractable roof is getting their money back. And, initially I was never a huge fan of indoor baseball. It just didn't seem right. But sitting outside some Texas summers, it's like, you know what? This roof thing, 72 degrees, that's pretty good. So
liking it now.
Yeah.
How long is it supposed to stay hot down there? We're supposed to get like another heat wave in the country. I don't know. You're supposed to get even hotter down there?
Yeah, and like Phoenix was like 110 degrees and higher for I don't know how many days in a row. It's crazy. And even over in Europe, I was seeing over in Italy, they have these people are standing outside the Colosseum in the Vatican, and all they can do is try to find shade and drink water. I mean, it's crazy. It's like 107. So I guess you can't call it global warming anymore because then when it gets cold, it doesn't work. So they call it climate change. First time ever climate's changed, I guess.
1 degree in the last how many years?
It's way longer than you and I have been around.
1 degree in the last 50 or 100 years has gone up. So I don't know. Look, we're the way we're going, with this AI and the battle over AI, and talking about how AI is going to be launching nuclear missiles and annihilating all the human race now. Anyway, I'm like, okay, whatever. We're not going to be here for the next 100 years. the way all this stuff is going. I mean,
Yep. It's it is well. We talked a little bit about pivot and change. The one thing we can say that's completely different than it was really not that long ago is the speed in which things change.
yeah.
I mean,
See, but I don't know. I is it the speed in which things change, or speed in which the narrative around things that change? I think there's a difference.
yeah, and
And
that's
I
true.
think the narrative and the messaging changes faster than the actual underlying subject matter. That's what I think.
You mentioned AI, and then you got your little chat bots, when they're on websites and whatever, and it seems like things change overnight, but they've probably been working on that for years before they were able to get it to where it needed to go and whatever. So,
They've
and
been
it gets
working on that for
frustrating.
years. Yep.
I'm trying to do something and I'm chatting with somebody or I get a text and I know good and well it's a AI chatbot text. It's not, nobody speaks like that.
Right.
You know what I mean? And I'm like, just gets frustrating. Put somebody on the phone that I can talk to. And, I always like talking to when they tell you the conversation is being recorded. I'm like, all right, so all you guys that are auditing this call that's being recorded, Rob is not helping me one bit right now.
Do you remember? Back in the days when you didn't even have caller ID? Yeah, you used to get the crank calls. And you didn't know who was calling you, and then who was just like breathing heavy on the phone, and who's remember those days?
I remember. Yeah, I'm sure you were the big prankster up there in New Jersey.
I'll tell you a prank that I used to do. We used to do a prank where we'd call up whoever we were targeting and say, look, this is such and such. We're working for the phone company. We're working on the telephone lines, around the block from your home. We're calling everybody in the area. And we want to let you know that your phone is going to be ringing a couple of times because we're doing some repairs on the line. But please don't pick up. It's just us working on it. Because if you do pick up, it could seriously injure one of our workers on the line. So please don't pick up, and we'll let you know when we're done and then when service will be returning to normal service. Oh, okay. And you'd hang up, and you'd wait a little while, and you'd call back, wait again, and you'd call back, and then eventually they'd pick up, and when they pick up, you're like, ah! And they would just hang up right away.
Yeah, I can see you doing that.
That's one of the pranks we used to do. But it's as we're going with it, it's the same thing where recording the auditors, when the crank calls used to come in. I remember one time someone was cranking me Saturday morning, early morning, woke me up, and they wouldn't say who they were. And I'm like, okay, now you got me up. Now I got to have breakfast. Why don't you just come over for breakfast? You might as well. I just kept on the phone, just kept talking as if you're not getting to me. So now you got me on the phone. You woke me up out of a good dream. I don't know what I'm going to be doing today. What do you think I should wear today? You think I should go with, a T-shirt or collared shirt? And I just have a casual conversation. They wouldn't answer me. And I would talk their ear off until they would hang up. I was just, you're not getting through anything. So I like your thing about when they're saying the call is being recorded. Yeah. Talk to the auditors. Yes. I like that.
So what you got going this weekend? Anything exciting?
I'm traveling to Florida this weekend. My wife's
business, pleasure.
Yeah, business. I'm going to be down at a conference in Boca, and then I got to go back the following week in Palm Beach, and then I'm coming out after that to your area in Texas shortly thereafter. So, like I said, my wife was traveling this week, so I'm picking her up from the airport tonight. Tomorrow we're doing some hiking. We got to do some meet with some of the contractors tomorrow, and then maybe go out with some dinner with some friends tomorrow night, and then Sunday it's on the plane early down in Florida.
All right. Well, you have a safe trip, and draw some business. Find some capital, find some assets, whatever it is you do for a living.
Something like that. It's funny because I was talking to two people about it today. That we're in this time now, whether it be in this business, or any business, looking from the generations, because we face, I'm sure you do too, we face two different types of clients generation wise, stage of life wise. The retirees, baby boomers, and then you got the millennials as well. And the common theme or denominator that I see on both ends of that spectrum is relevance, where baby boomers, retirees want to stay relevant, and it's hard to now with all this technology, AI, and all this stuff, and they're becoming more irrelevant, and they're trying to stay relevant. And the other side of it, where the younger millennials and stuff are trying to become relevant with technology and AI and all this stuff. And so relevance has been a common theme on both sides, and where we sit, you and I, in the middle, being relevant, working on both sides of that. It's an interesting dynamic and interesting times because a lot is changing. You and I are becoming a lot of experience, especially in this business. People are getting out, people are retiring, people are coming in, people want to learn. And bridging the gap post-COVID, remote work, AI, all this stuff, we're living in some interesting times. So may you live in interesting times, and we actually are living in interesting times.
Well, that's a great observation. Make a note. I'd like to pick back up next time on that relevance, because I think that's a very interesting concept between how we in the middle connect as a bridge between those trying to remain relevant and those trying to become relevant.